Welcome to the ScreenCrush Break Room. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in The Bad Batch, Episode 9.
Something very familiar about all this.
The episode picks up right where Episode 8 left off, with Cad Bane bringing Omega to the Kaminoans. Last week I said that Cad Bane was inspired by Clint Eastwood's classic characters in Sergio Leone's Man Without a Name trilogy, and several of you pointed out that he's actually based on Lee Van Cleef, and thank you for doing that. Van Cleef played the foil and sometimes partnered with Eastwood in those films. Now, his most famous role in those movies was as the Bad in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. You can definitely see the inspiration in Cad Bane. There's his lean design, wide-brimmed hat, toothpick/cigar, and of course, the voice.
Two can take a lot quicker than one.
Now hand her over.
I always see the job through.
So I expect a premium.
When Cad Bane enters the scene, the score even takes on a very Ennio Morricone spaghetti western tone.
How's my asset doing?
Omega is being held captive by a red force field. Never a good sign in Star Wars. Bane's droid is Todo 360, voiced by massive Star Wars fan Seth Green, who's created some of the best Star Wars comedy I've ever seen.
What the? Little help?
Let's face it, Todo was the highlight of this episode. I especially liked it here when he used his busted leg as a cane. Omega mentions the droid AZ-13, who was her little pal on Kamino, and also helped Fives uncover the truth about the clone-controlled ship and the ARC clone conspiracy. Omega discusses how Cad Bane treats him.
He's not very nice to you.
And this reminded me of a great video essay by the pop culture detective called The Tragedy of Droids. In it, he talks about how droids are a peasant class that are discriminated against in the galaxy.
Your droids, they'll have to wait outside. We don't want them here.
Used as fodder in war, and are subjected to whatever Lando was doing with L337.
How would that work?
It works.
Now, just recently, we're starting to see droids that have been abused, like Dio.
Hello?
No, thank you.
Looks like someone treated him badly.
And now, Todo 360 is talking like a battered spouse.
On the contrary, my treatment is perfectly adequate. Most of the time.
Then we cut to Kamino, where Lama Su is making plans. He orders Nala Se.
Once you have retrieved the genetic material needed, terminate her.
This is the exact wording that Werner Herzog used when he ordered Dr. Pershing to experiment on Grogu.
Extract the necessary material and be done with it.
Now, we already know that Moff Gideon wanted Grogu for his blood.
And has been blessed with rare properties that have the potential to bring order back to the galaxy.
And given the clone cylinders we see on Navarro, it's a strong bet that he wanted to use this blood to clone Palpatine. This, again, is supporting the theory that Omega is Force-sensitive, and the Kaminoans see her as a way to make an army of Jedi Knights. They're keeping her secret from the Empire because the government is none too pleased with the Jedi Order at the moment. Remember, the Kaminoans are essentially weapons manufacturers, and they're always hoping there's going to be another war. They might be holding out for some new faction like the Separatists, who would want Jedi Knight clones of their own. The third clone in this scene is Tun We, who gave Obi-Wan his grand tour of Kamino in Attack of the Clones.
Dad, Tun We's here.
And in the show, she's even voiced by the same actress, Rena Owen. Most of the episode takes place on the planet Bora Vio, and what a great setting. High up in the clouds, reminiscent of Bespin, and it looks like a prototype for the Kaminoans' current facility. The structures of the buildings are all the same, but it seems like some kind of great disaster happened here. I think this is foreshadowing what's going to happen to the Kaminoans in this show. After all, we know that the Empire doesn't continue to buy clones from them. They're also keeping secrets from the Empire, which they won't like. These are all reasons I could see them destroying the planet. But also, Palpatine still needs expert cloners for his contingency plan. We saw in the most recent Darth Vader comic that he'd been building his facility on Exegol for decades before the Rise of Skywalker. And even though he needs experienced cloners, none of the people we see on Exegol are Kaminoans. I think that at some point in this show, we'll see the Empire not only retire all clones, but wipe out the Kaminoans to make sure they can't raise an army of Jedi against them. Like maybe they're going to find out that Omega's a Force-sensitive clone and go, oh, bridge too far, and then cut off the program at its knees. But then, maybe Palpatine will be like, oh, you made a Force-sensitive clone. Interesting. And that will lead him to form his own clone contingency plan. When the Bad Batch are researching Cad Bane, the Arabesh letters on the screen read, Cad Bane, extremely dangerous. They also mention,
and was responsible for attempting to abduct Chancellor Palpatine.
This is from the Clone Wars episode Crisis on Naboo.
2 of you will act as guards protecting the Chancellor.
Now, Cad Bane also did kidnap a baby once, but I guess we're just going to ignore that, huh?
Won't somebody please think of the children?
You know, to make these videos, I wake up really early in the mornings to watch cartoons. My job is great. It makes me feel like a kid again. Like it's Saturday mornings and I'm waking up with a big bowl of cereal to watch the Clone Wars. But these days, I can't really eat all of the sugary cereals that I love. That's why I'm glad that I found Magic Spoon, the sponsor of this video. It tastes like all of the cereals from my childhood, but it has no gluten, soy, or GMOs, and it's low carb. Now, I actually love the cocoa flavor best, but you should try out their variety pack and find your own favorite. The variety packs come with cocoa, peanut butter, frosted, and fruity flavor, but there are other flavors you can try. Like, I'm not kidding when I say how healthy this cereal is. It's 140 calories, 0 grams of sugar, 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product that it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if it's not for you, they'll refund your money and you can part ways as friends. So click the link below to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use the promo code ScreenCrush at checkout to get $5 off any order. Or go to magicspoon.com/ScreenCrush. Back to the Easter eggs. The clones discover that Omega is the pure genetic copy, unaltered, of Jango Fett.
All clones were created from a host named Jango Fett. While our genetic structure was modified for growth acceleration and obedience, Omega is a pure genetic replication.
Remember, most clones have an accelerated aging process or have been otherwise tampered with, except for Boba.
An unaltered clone for himself. No tampering with the structure to make it more docile, and no growth acceleration.
They also mentioned Boba, saying that his codename was Alpha.
A male clone, codenamed Alpha, later referred to as Boba.
Makes sense, we have Alpha and Omega, but I don't know why the Kaminoans only made 2 pure copies. Or maybe there's 22 other Greek letter name clones running around out in the galaxy. And they also name dropped Tapoka City, the name of the Kaminoans' capital.
It looks like the ones on Tapoka City.
So back to the setting for this episode. It was terrific, perfectly designed. It's an echo of what's come before, the Clone Wars, and a symbol of what's to come, the battle at Cloud City. Just like in Cloud City, we have a bounty hunter trying to capture one of our heroes, and this is the perfect location to serve as a pivot point between the first 2 trilogies, exactly what the show The Bad Batch is trying to do. For a more practical standpoint, the broken windows allowing clouds to seep in give Cad Bane multiple chances to appear from the mist, and it's all just so cool. I love this character. Then Fennic Shan shows up and gives a loose recap of her last appearance.
She was my score first. Omega and I go way back, don't we?
In that episode, she lured Omega by being nice to her.
I can help with that.
And here we see that maybe she was not being disingenuous.
Omega, I'm trying to help you.
She's being set up as a kind of bounty hunter with a heart of gold. Maybe this will come into play in the book of Boba Fett, when maybe he'll be like, hey, Fennec Shan, go kill a baby. And she'll be like, I don't want to do that. Babies are nice and soft. And then, stage 3, conflict. Now, just like Cad Bane was inspired by Lee Van Cleef, Fennec Shand is also inspired by an old Western hero, your mom. Omega jumps through this door that's mid-closing, echoing this moment from A New Hope.
You idiots! These are not them! You've captured their stunt doubles!
Then we get to my favorite moment of the episode, when Omega discovers the cloning chambers. Notice that unlike the clone pods we see in Kamino, these growth chambers are filled with sickly green fluid, much like the cloning chambers where we saw Palpatine's jar full of Snokes in the Rise of Skywalker. These aliens also look a lot like Snoke, don't they? I mean, they're also kind of generic alien autopsy aliens, but I don't think the resemblance is an accident. If the Empire ends up destroying the Kaminoans in Tapoka City, then maybe Palpatine comes here to salvage this cloning technology for himself. He would discover that this kind of clone is a good Force conduit, meaning that he can use these clones as proxies while he's rebuilding his own human body. Rise of Skywalker sucks. Moving on. The best moment of the episode was when Omega gets a quiet moment of reflection, seeing herself in the glass. It's a private moment, where she's not saying what's on her mind, but we know she's thinking about where she came from, where she'll end up, and who she is. Last episode, we had another quiet moment where she looked out onto the wreckage and imagined what the war was like. Omega is the only character on the show who isn't just trying to survive, she's asking herself why she should survive. What's the point of existence? She's not just another kid's sidekick, she's the heart of the show. At the control panel, the Arbesh letter letters give us a small clue about why the city was abandoned. They spell out critical and escape pods. So maybe there was some kind of disaster that forced the Kaminoans out of this facility. In fact, maybe they're not even native to Kamino. They just renamed the planet after themselves. After all, they don't look aquatic, right? If you notice, you'll also see that she's looking at a map of the city, and this is how she knows where to find the escape pods later on. Then these letters go from spelling offline to online. Back on the Bad Batch's ship, the Arbesh letters here spell out Bora Vio, the setting for the episode. R.I.P. Tun we hardly knew you. Fennic Shan tries to reason with Omega, but ends up getting clone slimed.
He slimed me.
I like that Nala Se hired Fennic Shand on the side. It shows that she has a soft spot for Omega that'll probably come into play later, and also that not all Kaminoans view the clones as merely genetic assets. But it also speaks to the duplicitous, secretive nature of the cloners that Dex warned us about.
These are Kaminoans. Keep to themselves. They're cloners.
When Omega's in the escape pod, these Arabesh letters say, warning, portside fuel manifold damaged. When the Bad Batch rescues her, they have to break the news to Omega that she's different.
Hunter, you have to tell her.
I mean, is it that hard to see that she's different? She's a girl with yellow hair. That's pretty darn different from this guy. And of course, the episode ends with a promise.
You don't have to worry. You are never going back to Kamino.
Promise?
I promise.
Well, that's all the Easter eggs that I found. But if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.